Well, greetings, Boise State fans. Welcome on back. Bronco Nation News at bronconationnews.com. BJ Rains with you, and it's Friday, and that means Jay Tust is with us from KTVB. He is in the studios there for once. I don't have the nicest looking setup here, Jay. I didn't get the memo. I would have tried to taken the hat off or shaved, but glad to have you on board for Friday, man. How's it going?
It's good. I didn't necessarily shave for you, though.
So. That's all right. That's all right. The non-HD, I can't tell on the camera here, but no, appreciate it, man. It's Fridays. That means Jay is with us here Tuesdays and Fridays, at least through spring ball, and we'll kind of see what happens over the summer, if we can keep it going or not, maybe at least once a week or something. But rowpaint.com, our official title sponsor here, Power and People Pride in Painting, the official paint and coatings company at Boise State Athletics. And Jay, we kind of ran out of time on the last episode. Do want to hit on Abu Kigab today and kind of his legacy before we turn the page to spring football. I do want to touch on spring football a little bit, obviously, because Monday they resume practice again for the final couple of weeks. So maybe folks that were, like us, locked in on basketball, we can give them a little primer on what to look for or expect in the second half of spring football here. And then Mike Gundy, speaking of football, making some waves, the Oklahoma State coach, basically publicly saying he thinks Boise State would be a quality addition to the Big 12, and so we can hit on that a little bit as well. But I guess we'll start with Kigab. We kind of shortchanged him all week, really, in the different shows I've done, talking about the decisions of the guys that are coming back, and obviously we're 8 days now removed from the end of the season. Boise State fell at Memphis. Abu Kigab's career is over. And he's technically, Jay, the only player to this point that his career is officially over at Boise State. And as I said, we're doing so much talk about, is Armouche going to come back, and Shaver and Acott. And I think I kind of said, oh, well, if they're going to have everybody back except Abu Kigab. Well, as I said, yesterday with Prater, except Abu Kigab is a pretty big deal. I mean, the except part is a huge loss. And I think that we deserve to talk about this, because I don't think you just replace his points or his rebounding, his leadership, all the stuff he brings. He's going to be a really tough piece for them to have to replace.
He will be, for if not only stats, but just his leadership. I mean, you and I know that, BJ, just the way that he carried this team at times with just his character. He was a tone setter. He's a huge reason why they had the success that they had this season. And Abu's play down the stretch was absolutely remarkable. And I think when you look over the final month of his season, which was 9 games, he's averaging over 18 points per game. He's shooting over 57% from the field. Up until the final month of the season, BJ, Abu was shooting 22.2% from 3, right? And in the final month of his collegiate career, that number jumped to 48%. A 22% shooter jumped to 48.4%. I mean, that just shows you how locked in he was over the final month, how determined he was to lead this team to a place that really they haven't been before. And he did that. And it's so funny because, there's a couple of weeks ago before the NCAA tournament, you and I, BJ, kind of talked about this. Like, how does Abu stack up against Drmic Marks, who for me has always just kind of been the pinnacle of Boise State basketball? And I guess we could have that argument if we want to still. But there's also nothing more frustrating than this time of year when you turn on ESPN and all you hear them talk about is LeBron versus Michael Jordan. And you're just like, gosh, do we really have to have this argument again? Like, why do we have to degrade one or the other? It just doesn't make sense. It's still so fresh to me seeing how hard Abu played that I don't know if I'm ready to make that decision of who meant more to Boise State, him or Drmic Marks. Who had the better career, him or Drmic Marks? If you look at stats, it would definitely suggest probably Drmic, but man, their overall value to this program has just been tremendous. And Abu over the last month, man, he is if not the best, he's as good as it's been at Boise State.
And that Memphis game really says it perfectly. What do you have? 14 straight points, goes scoreless in the first half, comes back in the second half with 20 points. Really fueled Boise State's comeback at that point. Yeah. I thought he was just absolutely huge in the Memphis game and really the whole Mountain West tournament.
BJ, Will Hall and I had this conversation as we traveled back to Portland. If Boise State doesn't have Abu, and I know it's a big if, it's not a realistic if, but just for the sake of putting what he meant to the team in perspective, if they didn't have Abu against Memphis, How bad does Boise State lose that game? I mean, they might lose by 30. I really think so. If they didn't have Abu with that offensive spark in the second half, they were already down 18 at halftime. Was it 18, 17, somewhere in that range at halftime?
19, right? 38-19?
Yeah, okay, 38-19. Yeah, 38-19. Yeah. So if they don't have him, they're already down 19 at halftime. I think they probably get throttled. I think that probably winds up, and that's no disrespect to any of the other guys on the team, but as we saw, E-Man was dealing with an injury. Shaver just hasn't been himself in a little while. Armouche was up against a lottery pick. I mean, if they didn't have if they didn't have Kigab in that Memphis game, that's like a 30-point blowout in my opinion.
And it's not just the scoring. We mentioned the leadership, and I've told this story before, Jay, but Leon Rice told us one time that Abu Kigab had been on campus for like 2 weeks. He wasn't even playing. He was still learning the teammates' names, and there was a halftime where he was the guy that was firing everybody up in the locker room and like led them to a comeback. He's just a unique guy, man. And he was always the team spokesman with the media and was always the guy that was out there, with the face of the program and his ability to get to the foul line. I think whenever they badly needed points, he could just back a guy down. His ability to drive and some of those left-handed layups he'd hit. I mean, he just was such a crafty guy, and even his three-point shot got better as the season went on.
Yeah, I think the thing about the kind of the coolest thing about Abu is that like nobody will ever question if he maximized his potential and his opportunity. I don't think anybody will ever question that about his legacy at Boise State, because I think that he poured everything into it he possibly could have, and I think he got everything out of it that he possibly could have. I know that maybe, hey, that NCAA tournament victory will just kind of loom over his career a little bit, but you're doing a disservice to everything he accomplished if that's what you focus on. And that I think that's as a former athlete myself, like there's probably, and it's been a while, and I'm not comparing myself to Abu, but like there's nothing. I feel like there can't be anything more gratifying when it comes to individual evaluation than knowing you did everything that you could have and that you maximized your potential, because that means that you left it all out there. And I think that without question, that's what Abu did.
What do you make of his pro prospects?
Another great question, and it's so funny because I'm sure you've gotten this on social media too, BJ. That's whenever you talk about Abu, like that's immediately what kind of fans want to fire back with right now. And I've said this, we agreed about this about like guys like Marcus Shaver and Mladen Armouche and even Emmanuel Acott, like that their success in the NBA shouldn't decide if they're successful post Boise State. Like all those guys can go overseas and make very good money playing the game that they love. And if they can do that, like a Derek Marks, like a Ryan Watkins, that meant so much to this Boise State team, then that should carry tremendous value on this, the totality of their basketball careers, I guess, and how you view them. Abu doesn't have to get drafted in the NBA. He doesn't have to play in the NBA to be viewed as a success story, in my opinion. Might he be able to work his way into that position? Maybe, but I think that at this point in time, being drafted is probably a long shot, and I'm just being honest. Like I hope the guy gets a shot. But getting drafted, there's only like 60 picks in the NBA, man. Like it's hard to get drafted, so that would seem like a long shot to me.
Do you think though that he's a guy? I mean, he is certainly a guy that's going to be paid money to play basketball for a long time somewhere.
Absolutely, and that's what he'll go overseas probably initially. It's up to him. I mean, he could be a G League guy, or you could go overseas and make a lot more money, and then maybe work your way back here after you prove yourself at that level, but. I don't know. I don't know if you just have to be such a unique prospect. I mean, I think the one thing that's going to work in his favor though, is that, so many times when, maybe there's a guy looking for an opportunity, you might see you might look at a reason why not to give him that opportunity at the NBA, because there's so many competitive, good athletes. Abu's character is the type though, that you're like, I'm looking for a reason to give him an opportunity. And so that's what might, be able to open a door for him down the road, I would think.
Hey, you mentioned the former grades. I'll see if I can share the screen here properly to do this. We'll see if we can play the video. How about Anthony Drmic the other day, and what he did?
The other day, that was awesome.
With the steal. Brisbane are going to have a chance.
So they're down by 2, and the other team has the ball. So the team in pink is winning and has the ball and throws it away. And somehow Anthony Drmic, who's playing for Brisbane there in Australia, gets the ball and makes the 3-pointer. Pretty incredible.
That was awesome.
Here we go, Jay with the steal.
Yeah. I would think that, like, you kind of like Marcus Favor, and how can he go over and maybe have a great career in Australia?
On the clock, they've got to get it in.
Such a cool moment for Anthony Drmic, though. I shouldn't take that away from him.
The game-winning 3 with like under a second left. They win the game.
Yeah. March Madness at its finest right there.
He's 2 points away, I believe, as the all-time leading scorer at Boise State, if we want to go down that road again.
Oh, that was probably one of the more heartbreaking things I've ever witnessed by
I've never in my life seen maybe gambling has something to do with it, but a meaningless 3-pointer at the buzzer with a team down by 10, 12 points. They called timeout, if I remember right, with like 10 seconds left to set up a play for him, even though they were done.
Yeah, because it got to the point, BJ. I mean, they needed to win that game like badly in order to maybe continue playing on after the Mountain West tournament. And it got to the point where there was like a minute to go and maybe they were down like 9 or something. I can't remember. But we all kind of like looked at the scoreboard and looked over at the bench and they were like, okay, I think they've realized they can't win this game, but they need to get Anthony Drmic 3 more points. And so he just started chucking up bombs. And you're right. They did call a timeout to try to draw up like one last play for him. And
air ball, unfortunately, it was an air ball, I think, from the corner or something.
Oh, so hard. I can't imagine scoring, was it 1,942 points, I think? I think something it's that. I can't remember. And coming up 2 points short. That's a lot of points to score to come up 2 freaking points short.
I just remember like being like on press row, like almost like getting out of our seat, like when the shot went up, because you're like, that's for the school record in points, and it's a meaningless basket at the buzzer. And would the team have gone crazy? Like even though you lost the game, like that would have just been so weird.
Yeah.
But Drmic was always a good guy to root for, and he's always, even still to this day, we can stay in touch with him and stuff, and he's a good dude.
Great competitor. You bring up, the pro prospects with Boise State, BJ, and I think that's like kind of one cool thing about this team. And you talk about like the player development and all that stuff, and I mean the proof is in the pudding. Boise State has brought in some guys and really developed them and given them a chance to go on to the NBA, a la Chandler Hutchison, Derek Marks too, but Derek Alston, right? I will say, like, their player development felt a little different this year, and it was about dudes like sacrificing for the greater good of the team because of it, winning at an incredibly high level, and because you won so much, eventually kind of the individual accolades started to shine a little bit right there. But I just felt like maybe more so than years past, the focus on that player development. I could be wrong, man. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I just felt like the player development this year was a little bit more like team-oriented, more so than, hey, Hutch, we need you to average 20 this year and be an NBA prospect, because if you don't, we're gonna be in a world of trouble. It never really kind of felt like somebody had to have a big game for this Boise State basketball team this year, and that's what made them special and unique, I feel like.
And I will say this, for all the, Justinian Jessup second-round pick, for the first-round pick for Hutchison, for the couple of guys that have made the NBA, they've done a pretty good job of, on a yearly basis, pretty much having somebody that's going to get paid to play somewhere. I mean, they've got you go back to, you mentioned Thomas Broplay and Ryan Watkins and
Mikey Thompson,
all those, Mikey Thompson and Derek Marks and Drmic, and there's other guys, even like Rob Heyer, and guys that were getting paid to play, and then you throw in now what Alston's doing and what Jessup's doing down there, and obviously Hutchison's hanging around. I mean, there's a pretty good. It may not be the NBA and all the top draft picks that some schools have, but they got James Webb. Forgot about him, and they got a lot of guys that are getting paid to play basketball, and that's the ultimate goal. It
is, and again, I mean, BJ, when you go overseas, you're making. I mean, I guess it depends on the league. James Webb's playing in a great league in Spain.
Oh, you can get more over there than you would in like the G League or something.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I mean. That's why some people, I think that you might the G League's connected directly to the NBA, but the salary caps in the G League are they're insane, man. Like, you really can't make a ton of money there. So these guys that are going overseas, they're probably making 100,000, maybe more than that for playing professional basketball over there. So good on them if they can do that, and good on Abu and any of the other guys currently on the roster if they can go chase those dreams overseas and still cash a very nice check to play the game that they love.
Hey, United Commercial Insurance, making business insurance easy for you. You can just check them out online there, unitedcommercialinsurance.com. If you're interested, if you own a business, if you're starting a business, they can help you with all the different business insurance policies out there. They can write them in 44 states across the country, but they're based right here in town. And again, if you think you have good insurance with your business, give them a call. They can probably get you a better rate. Check them out again, unitedcommercialinsurance.com. Transcomp service as well. The best in trucking if you're looking to start a trucking company, or if you're just a guy that wants to get out there and start a new career change and get out on the road, they can help you with all the steps to get you out there towing that first load. Again, a local company that is a national company. And again, just hooked up Warren G, the rapper, in his tour bus. They got them locked up as well. So transcompservice.com to check them out. And Boise Dentistry Co. as well. How about them? That's my kids there on the screen for once smiling at the dentist, thanks to Dr. Chris Meinert. And you can check them out, boisedentistryco.com. Big BSU fans, big BSU supporters. So if you're looking for a new dentist, check them out, boisedentistryco.com. We got spring football starting on Monday, Jay, and I know myself included and you, we missed a lot of football. It's not only was it, the team being in the tournament, but they started spring football a week earlier than usual this year. And so it was going on, during the regular season still. So with the Mountain West tournament and being down there and then being in Portland, neither one of us have been able to get out and see a ton of spring practice. So we dive back in with that on Monday. They're going to have pro day next week. And I think we can wait when we do our segment Tuesday next week to kind of focus on Wednesday's pro day. But, the spring football for us, for fans that were locked up into this basketball team, and now they're diving back into football for the final couple of weeks. What's on your radar? What are a couple storylines for the second half of spring football here?
It's so funny because like in any normal year, man, we've been going, gangbusters over spring football and trying to, evaluate and draw conclusions. But like, again, if we're being honest with ourselves, the first couple of weeks of spring ball, and really spring ball as a whole, but definitely the first couple of weeks, like the only thing you can take from it is who is out there. Not necessarily what they're doing, but just like who is out there, right? Like, especially with the parts that we can see. And so as we hit the home stretch, though, and there's that competition that's obviously going to be on April 9th, right, the spring game, as we get a little closer to that, maybe the pecking order, the depth chart and stuff, the way that guys rotate through a practice becomes a little more significant, right? And so I think that it's as simple as just seeing if this team looks better, more physically mature. Does that defensive line, are they gonna back up the hype this year that they struggled at least initially to last year? They found their rhythm after a few games, but stuff like that. And I mean, it is so simple. Like, is Hank Bachmeier going to take the next step? Like, is he in a position where he is going to continue to grow and really finally make that sizable leap after being the starter for the last 3 years? And so it's things like that we'll have our eye on. And then if you want me to focus on somebody individually, again, I'm excited to see George Holani. Is he healthy? Is he ready to go? Can he make the most out of, this spring after missing most of last spring, if not all of last spring, and really find his stride in this offense? Because if he can, he will be special and dynamic for the Broncos.
And you could say at the same position, I think Ashton Genty's a guy we saw the first day or two and has some potential to play right away. Some of the wide receivers behind Steph Cobbs, last year, Steph Cobbs was kind of the guy that was hyped up all off season. And then he, for the most part, aside from some injuries, lived up to it with how he played in the punt return game and that receiver. You wonder, it sounds like local star Austin Bolt, maybe one of those guys this year that's starting to get hyped up. We were all there and talked to Hank Bachmeier there early on in camp, and he said he's been doing amazing and really went out of his way to talk about him. And I know he's a guy for 3-4 years now. People have been waiting to see. Heck, midway through the season, he was even thinking about joining the basketball team. I mean, it just hasn't been going well for him on the football field, but maybe, Jay, finally we're ready to see Boise State's offense unleash Austin Bolt now that he's a full-time wide receiver.
And there you go. That's what I was going to pick up off of BJ. I feel like he finally kind of has his most solid direction since he's been at Boise State, right? Like, they wanted him to be let's go back actually further. So in high school, he completely played out of position. He was a quarterback, as many people know. They did that because he was the best athlete on the field, and he proved that every Friday night and won more games that they probably would not have won otherwise had he not been playing that position. So he gets to Boise State. kind of toyed around like where he would fit. Okay, it's tight end, right? And he didn't necessarily put on size, but he still had that incredible speed. And then they got injured at the stud position last year, which is now the edge position. And they're
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so let's throw him over there. And you were watching him warm up against Nevada, and like he's not with the tight ends anymore. He's over on defense. And then after a few weeks there, they move him back to the tight end position. And then he flirts with wide receiver. And now this spring, it's like wide receiver, okay? And so I feel like that's going to not just help him, but I feel like it's going to help everybody involved in the decision to get him on the field and how to utilize him. Like, he's a wide receiver. He is long, he is lanky, and he is fast. Everybody you ask on that team will tell you that he's it's funny too, because that can be an opinionated thing, BJ, at times, as you know. But it is almost unanimous. Whenever you ask anybody, hey, who's the fastest guy on the team? Austin Bolt's name at least comes up. Like, even if he's not the first, like, he's like, but wait a minute, Austin Bolt. Like, okay, he's probably the fastest, he's always in that discussion. And it's going to be really, I mean, okay, you say it there, BJ, like, what are we excited to see over the spring? Like, how are they actually going to utilize him? Is he running with the ones? Is he taking reps with Hank Bachmeier? And even if coaches want to downplay, that doesn't matter right now, it absolutely matters. It absolutely matters. So, that's a great one. We'll keep our eye on Austin Bolt over these final 2 weeks.
You mean when Brian Harsin once said in a fall camp scrimmage that when Chancellor James and Dylan Sumner Gardner were wearing scout team uniforms that it meant nothing? He wanted to give the defense some different or the offense some different looks. It didn't mean nothing because he said that. Both just happened to be suspended the first game of the season, but they were just wearing scout team uniforms to give the offense different looks. Yeah, coaches love the
paranoid. I mean, basketball coaches are paranoid. They are, but even after kind of being around the basketball program a little bit longer this year, you realize how much more paranoia there is around a football coaching office. I mean, it's off the charts, man. It really is. Unless you're Colorado State, who you just invite anybody and everybody come watch you, and you put on a blue collar shirt, and that right there is a tone setter. You rock a blue collar shirt with your name in cursive on it, and there it is.
Hey, and that's Colorado State. You got to be careful there, man. They're radio guys. They're not afraid to come after us, man.
I get it. Oh, okay, that's another discussion. The blue collar shirt, though. I mean, even if that's your thing, like, just don't say blue collar. Like, that's clearly a school in the Mountain West like mantra. And I get like other programs might want to use it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I think you got to steer clear of that one. That's just my opinion. You do you, Colorado State, but I think it's kind of funny to first day. We're blue collar.
Well, that whole thing
literally has it on their collars, like.
And Jay Norvell's been in the Mountain West, so it's not like he's coming from East Coast or something. I mean, he knows what's going on.
Kind of, I don't know, whatever. Good on you. I'll say this. I'll tip my cap to them. Very different energy over there, and at least people are talking about him on Twitter because, like, that wasn't the case at this time last year with Steve Addazio. Like, it just always seemed like, what's Steve going to do today? Not what is actually going on with the football team.
Well, I think you and me were the quote fanboys from the Boise media that the Colorado State radio guy took a shot at for us, though. So it is what it is. Hey, quick thank you, Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. You get more information on the website. They got the at-home shopping, the Skip app, all the great stuff there, home delivery, 13 Idaho locations, frequent the Cuno location often, so we appreciate them. And the Blue and Orange Store, blueandorangestore.com. Check them out at the Boise Town Square Mall for all your gear for the spring game, all that Nike new Boise State gear. Or again, if you're not in the Boise area, you can order it online at the Blue and Orange Store.com. And I guess a big announcement that we can officially make today on the show until something changes. Jay, you have officially verbally committed for the Bronco Nation News Golf Classic Timberstone Golf Course on June 3rd. And a lucky foursome will be able to add you as their fifth player for the tournament. So Jay gets to come out and get a free.
I don't know if I call him lucky.
What is the scouting report on your golf game, Jay?
I will make sure I have Fireball in the cart.
Well, that might have just upped the bid for the folks here. We'll have to see. But again, in the next week or so, we are getting close to announcing the details on this and the registration and all that. So save the date, though, June 3rd. It's out at Timberstone. Looking forward to that. And, yeah, looking forward to having Jay participate. Mike Prater's going to play. Actually, we're working on – I don't know if I can officially say yet. I'm trying to work with some people. But we have let's just say a highly prominent coach that may have won some postseason awards and taken his team to a prominent tournament this year and won some championships. And their season just.
God, if Bill Self shows up, I will aim for him.
No, Mark Few. No, maybe a friend of Mark Few. Let's just say that might be our celebrity shot. So on a par 3, you can make a donation to charity and have this prominent person take your tee shot, maybe, or get a photo with them. We got some fun things we're working on. We're actually confirmed, Jay, that Lithia Ford's donating a car for a hole-in-one. If you get a hole-in-one through Lithia Ford, is going to donate a hole-in-one there and some other packages. So we got a lot of fun stuff going on. You can take Fireball with Jay. It'll be a lot of fun at the tournament. So looking forward to that. But Jay, final thing here before we go, I wanted to mention, speaking of football, Mike Gundy came out with some interesting comments about the Big 12. And I know he was asked about it. He didn't go out of his way, but the columnist Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman was doing a story on the Big 12. And Mike Gundy's belief is that he believes that the conference will ultimately end at 14 teams. They're going to go to 14, obviously, in the short term when they add these other schools. But once Oklahoma and Texas are still in there, there's going to be some overlap. But once Oklahoma and Texas leave, and Dennis Dodd wrote about this, back in the fall, there's been some stories about maybe they would replace Texas and Oklahoma with 2 more schools, Boise State, Memphis being mentioned prominently to keep the league at 14. Part of that is, hey, if there's going to be realignment again in the future, why not scoop up all the best group of 5s now and not have to compete with the other leagues for them in a couple of years for them? But I thought it was interesting. Mike Gundy basically said he thought Boise State made a lot of sense and said some positive things about the program from a TV perspective and said, hey, when I flip the channels, I stop and watch them. So what are your thoughts on the whole Big 12 thing and Mike Gundy coming out with some nice comments?
I think it's interesting because when it comes to realignment, like if everybody could add teams, they would add teams. But the teams that are currently in a league need to see value because they don't want their piece of the pie when it comes to finances get smaller, right? With that being said, like if you're the Big 12 and you saw how surprisingly easy it seemed for the SEC to say, hey, Oklahoma and Texas, come on over. Like if you're not building some type of safety net for your conference, like it was, for a second there, I was like, well, is the Big 12 just going to dissolve and break up, or some going to go to the Pac-12 and others going to go to the Big 10? And it was, that's how quickly
Baylor to the Mountain West, man. It could have happened.
That's how quick things can move, though. It's insane, right? And so, like, if you're not at least having an eye on how to further strengthen not just the financial aspect of your conference, but the conference itself, then, you're messing up. Like, you have to have your eye out on people. And so Boise State still kind of seems like they're, next in line. They've been next in line for a little while now, and other programs like Cincinnati have straight up, Cincinnati catapulted Boise State over these last few years. It is what it is. They're going to the Big 12, and Boise State's still on the waiting list, right? And so they have to look at those programs like a Houston and those programs and see what they can do in order to better position themselves. It's kind of funny, BJ. What if Memphis Boise State is a conference game a couple years down the road? I was talking with Memphis's play-by-play guy in Portland, and they were kind of looking at their future schedule once. Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, and one more.
BYU.
BYU. Well, that doesn't affect the American Athletic Conference, but once those 3 leave, they're looking around at their football schedule and being like, man, this ain't the same anymore, And so how are they going to fill? They have like a 62,000 seat stadium, I want to say. And they're like, they don't necessarily fill it now. So how are they going to fill it when the conference opponents become lesser and lesser? And so that'd be kind of crazy if one day Memphis and Boise State are those teams that make that jump into the Big 12. I will say this, BJ, and we were kind of talking about this before the show. Gosh, it'd be kind of cool to see it happen if only for this reason. Imagine the level of athlete that all of a sudden will be showing up in Boise State uniforms. Like, it will heighten. It absolutely will. And you look at back in the days when Boise State was playing in the WAC, like they had to elevate their overall level of competition or competitor in order to compete with who they're going up against, right? And so I don't really know. I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth, but if Boise State was still on the WAC, right, I think it'd be much more difficult for Leon Rice to get transfers like Abu Kigab and Emmanuel Acott, and heck, even
there's no doubt,
right?
When he makes that initial call or that initial text message, or he shows up on a DM or whatever, when he can be affiliated with a Big 12 team as opposed to a Mountain West team, that's a game changer.
Yeah. Well, and it just shows you that it is, because even like the Mountain West over the WAC, what was a game changer, and I don't know how many people really sit back and acknowledge that or realize that, but it's true. I don't know if Boise State's football brand is what it is, so that it might not necessarily impact the football team as much as the basketball team, but I absolutely think that it has an effect on the basketball team, and look where you're going and starting to play games, bigger markets, more eyes, like closer to California and home, all that.
Everything else that would come with it too, better facilities and better better charter flights and all that stuff would help in the long run. Final thing, Jay, I mean, maybe this is a dumb question, but do you feel this is something that Drmic Dickey and Boise State still really want? I mean, do you feel like this is something that we hear rumblings of, like a capital campaign for donations and stuff maybe coming out soon to try to improve the stadium and do some other things, maybe to they may not come out and say it, but kind of to woo over the Big 12, so to speak. But we're seeing all the push through the Blue Collar Club and the BAA to try to get 10,000 new members or whatever. I mean, it seems like, whether they want to admit it or not, they're not just doing this to for nothing here. I mean, do you get a sense that behind the scenes quietly that they're still working hard for something like the Big 12?
I think that this new administration is always working. I mean, they've kind of shown us that subtly at times. I think that they always have their eye on, quote unquote, what's next. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens, when it happens, all that stuff. But I have no doubt in my mind that they are they probably won't admit it to us, but I have no doubt in my mind that they probably are doing that. And I get that they can't be fully transparent about some of it too, BJ, because you can't, openly say we're pursuing the Big 12, because that makes the Mountain West look bad. And that's currently what is trying to lift you up. So you definitely have to navigate that very fragilely, being aggressive about the future while not offending the present.
Well, in that article, Barry Trammell said there was a Drmic Dickey quote, I guess, saying something about we didn't get it this time, but we're not giving up, or something, basically alluding to the Big 12. So a lot still to happen on that, but it is interesting. And I think for Boise State fans, I'm getting kind of excited on social media stuff on Thursday that there's anytime you get a story with Big 12 and Boise State in the same sentence. And, Mike Gundy even said, I'm probably talking out of turn here, which I'm sure he was, but his personal opinion doesn't mean a ton. But I'll say this, Jay, Cincinnati picked the right time to have two great football seasons in a row. I mean, Boise State football, you had the great basketball season, which certainly helps. You mentioned football as the heavy driver. I know it's not done in a vacuum. It's not done based on one season, but it would probably really help the Boise State football team. They go win 10, 11 games this year.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. Buzz is everything. You want to win over fans. It would help. It would help.
Well, Jay, have a great weekend. Appreciate you for doing this, man. And we'll be watching KTVB, the news tonight. And what's the Friday schedule? When can we see some local sports here?
Oh, man. Obviously, I have a little bit of an eye on the NCAA tournament, because why not? Bucks bags.
Rock Chalk playing tonight, man. Kansas Providence. I am so pissed at you, because the way that this all shook out for Kansas, could not be better. I'm so mad that they're probably going to make the national title game, which means they only have to win one game to win a national title. I just look at their road, and it just makes me want to. I shake my head. If they beat Providence, by the way, tonight, Jay, they will become the most wins in Division I history. So they'll pass Kentucky. They're tied right now with Kentucky, so we will be the winningest program in college basketball history, at least in terms of wins. So
come on, Cooley.
I got to get you, man. I talked to John Mallory about it. Maybe it takes Boise State getting in that conference, but I got to get you to Allen Fieldhouse, man. I know you like to give it jokes and stuff, but it is truly one of the cool places if you're a college basketball fan to get to. Now that you're a voter, an AP voter, we can get you a seat on press row probably as an AP voter now, so we can make it happen. But who knows? Maybe it'll be a conference game in a couple years.
I'll hope so. I'll hope that'd be a bucket list thing for sure.
Have a great weekend, man. And again, spring practice starts on Monday, and then we'll be back with you next Tuesday, man. Appreciate it.
Can't wait.
There he is, Jay Tust, sports director at KTVB. Appreciate his time. Appreciate you guys for checking this out. Thanks as always to RoPaint.com. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News, Bronco